All right, everybody, we're going to get this little workshop started. Thank you all for attending. I won't turn my head very much because it hurts my neck, but I just look at these three guys. We're here for the CROA workshop on the 8th of January, and I'm going to call the meeting to order and begin the festivities with the exciting public comment, since I have 3 people signed up who want to comment. So let's start with Michelle. Michelle, you're first.
Good evening, nice chilly evening. I'm Michelle Lowe, and I live in Island Village, 1845 Island Village Way. And I actually am very happy to see, I saw the agenda for the service areas. And I'm happy to see that we are going to have some protocol addressing the committees. However, I'm surprised that this was on the agenda and there were so many elements to it. As far as I know, we haven't, as a committee, then identified that this was going to take place this evening. And in order to promote protocol, we do have to have a beginning. But I think the communication and input from the service area committees. So when I read the agenda, it was good in the outline, but there are certain items that some service area committees may object to, some may agree to. And I think this has to be reviewed very well before anything gets put into place. And the big communication that I see lacking in our town, we're somewhat new island village. I don't know about the other towns. But I do not feel that the residents realize what's included in the town service areas going to be done, or a yearly outline, which could easily be done beginning of the year, a whole outline of services that will be performed throughout the year. This can change, but the town homeowners need to realize what exactly is going to be serviced for the year. And then a projection going down. And I know this was all given to us when we first law, but those type of information goes out the window at certain times. So that's my main point, is the communication to the town homeowners. We can't do it through a committee necessarily because we're not allowed to have their emails. So we've tried in different ways, but it's just not happening. And then also one other thing is item number 1 mentioned having a video of the service committees when we meet, not quarterly. I'm understanding it's any committee that we have. I think that's going to be a detriment to the committee because it's hard enough to get committee members to join just to do this. Then if we're going to have to do it during certain hours, it's going to have to be videotaped. I can see videotaping quarterly and a year-end meeting, but to have the committees get together and be videotaped to get all this going and find a place, I think that's a detriment. But I appreciate you starting this. I just feel very slighted that our service area committee members were not identified.
Thank you. Now, Esther, your turn.
My name is Esther Bruce. Happy New Year to all of you. I live in 2216. I'm an owner. 2216 Celebration Boulevard. I'm also a member of the Island Village Service Area Committee. We have recently provided to Charles with some improvement opportunities that we see with Grand Manor and the service area aspect of it. I just want to bring to light today that is in reference to budgets and finances. because we've experienced some things with that, but I don't think that should be, and more that we should be able to analyzing this to pinpoint the issues. As an example, the water bill 2024 was double what the proposed they gave us for budgeting or for 2023. And we didn't understand why. So we asked for invoices from the billing company, inspections for water irrigation pipes to see if there was a leakage. And through that, we found that in the building that was built at it, remember was the one that caught the issue, was that one of the homes, not a town home, was being moved to the town building, right? So we were paying for that. Although not a lot, but it's something that went on from 23 to 20. That should have been gone. Somebody should be looking at the invoices to check. In addition to that, and what happened is we're given a budget sheet that shows forecast actuals and then the budget for the next year. The incorrect actuals were entered into 2023. And that is what was used by, what our team uses that to determine the budget for 2024. And because it was the incorrect amount, they did not budget the correct amount. So it looked like we had overspent, which it was really, when you look at the actual billing, it ends up being the same. Through that process and looking at the spreadsheets that they have provided, and it's very, very nice that they have provided to go figure everything out through the sheets that are very lengthy in the website, we've been able to find errors in accounting, what's being, things, how things are calculated, how things are assessed. Just, I think it's an area where we really need to spend, what we need to have right now, spend more quality time validating that stuff and making sure that the thing is, that what we're seeing from vendors is correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Can you share that, Charles?
I have to do it.
Yeah, of course, right. Yeah. So anyone who's making comments on service areas, we're going to have some lengthy conversation around this too. And thank you for some of the.
Our final guest this evening, Jim.
Well, this is a trifecta for Ivy Village. So,
Can we have the TNX you got? Come on.
yeah, just a heads up. This is from the finance committee. We're going to be off our revenue in the first 2 months by $700,000. Due to managing that security, 252 flats. They said they were going to do in November in Iowa Village Phase 2B. They assured us that they would do it in 2024, but it didn't happen. So we won't be collecting dues until March. That is assuming they stick with it. 4 of their executives all said they would do it last year, so they pushed it off and they would give us an answer why. Second subject, as you know, Coffee for the Soul, barbershop and Scoops Ice Cream are in Island Village. Taco Don Andres is to be opening in hopefully a month if they get all the approvals from Minnesota County. I was wondering if someone from Grand Management might want to join me in trying to meet the apartment management to talk to them about parking. A lot of the renters, their doors are on Celebration Boulevard, so there is not going to be enough parking for these commercial establishments. Now, we can't force, I don't believe we can force them, but all their parking lots have enough space because they would not have been approved by us in the county unless they did for them. So if anything we can do to help the management of apartments convince their residents to park in parking lots and open up their spaces, for particular Taco Don Andres apartments, I think it would be helpful, and maybe it'll make an difference. So that's it.
Thanks,
Send me
Jim.
your email and I'll connect you with Danita.
You know, and I apologize, I signed in, but I probably forgot to check my name. I would speak to.
I'm sorry, but you're not on here speaking. Are you even? Oh, yeah, you are.
You want
Come on up.
to service area?
What?
You want to talk now or the service? Because
I'm going to talk during the service area.
yes, it's going to be open.
Oh, perfect. Let's just do that. I'll talk during the service.
All right, let's get a motion to adopt the agenda with some changes. Anybody? Okay. That. All Right, we're gonna remove 9
Yes.
and we're going to remove 14. Anything else?
Just the road meetings will be revisited. In one of those. Not.
Sounds good.
What was the discussion about removing 9?
They're not ready.
Oh, okay.
Christian, one more time.
And the removal of item 14, the update to the design guidelines. This has been postponed as the ARC Covenant's joint meeting on Tuesday was canceled, where they were going to be discussing these items.
Thank you.
All those in favor of adopting the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's go to 3, which is our only action item. And that's the motion to, I need a motion to approve Day Smart
Motion.
Recreation Software System for 3 years, et cetera, et cetera.
I'll second.
Second, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And now let's start with our discussion stuff. Let's begin with the 2025 Parks Enhancement Replacement Schedule. I'll give that to you guys.
Yes. So this is, so we know an ongoing item on our main, or on our workshops. Here. We have currently 3 projects that were approved in December's meeting. Those were the Bocce Ball Park, Trumpet Park, and Central Park. Those projects are to be taking place in January. We have paused on any plant installation on those parks just because of the cold weather. Demo work in preparation for installation is taking place on those 3. And we are confident that they'll be done within the timeline, or that they will not be affecting any of these future items that we're looking at doing in February, that we're looking at discussing in this meeting tonight to put on the consent agenda for our next January board meeting. And that would be in reference to Island Village Amenity Center at $1,882, Mosaic West Park at $3,037, and Green Lawn at $22,000. We're on track for this. These are selected based off of the schedule. Here we go. Sorry. Based off the park refurbishment calendar schedule for 2024 to 2025. We have a total of 8 parks for Q1 of passive parks that were selected for this. We were doing 3 last month, 3 this month, and then the following in March. And then moving to active parks in Q2. So any discussion on those items before we continue discussion inside of the realm of landscaping?
For a green lawn estimate, confirm the unit price per mulch. It's usually listed in the quotes, but we just have like a flat number without units, number of units, or like quantity and the rate.
Yes, can I get that to you on the board packet version, or?
No, I mean, or can you just tell? Oh, do you know? Do you know that? I'm just curious what it is, the number. I mean, if you don't have it now, that's fine, O'Brien.
What's the total?
For green lawn, yeah.
22,690.
Well, no, the mulch,
Oh, the mulch.
the rate is 44.10, and it says like one quantity, and usually you put the dollar rate and the number.
It's 490
Okay. So it's going to be, and it's still the $9 rate. Okay, I was just confused on this estimate.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll put it as a flat rate, sometimes I break it down. I'll punch break it down.
No, I just wanted to just clarify.
Are you getting full pricing, and we're splitting these up the entire year? So how are you procuring the bulk in some of these things?
So for my mulch, we have our pricing We buy our mulch from the same place we buy our irrigation and a lot of our plant material, not all of it. So we're on a special buying level with them. We don't really get a break for a bag or per plant. We're at a pricing level that's equivalent with like Brightview. And so we're about the lowest you can go.
So doing these projects in fourth quarter, we realize the second thing.
Yeah, so if I bought one bag of mulch versus 10,000 bags of mulch, I get the same.
Anybody?
Comments more about the park report. So with the report in general, this is produced by excluded by the parameters.
No, this is written by myself. and Christian.
Okay, so then there's some incompleteness on it. I went through and looked at it, so a cable loop is missing December. Mosaic East is missing December. I believe Media is missing December, the Eastern piece is in December. Barrier Resolute and failed to go on missing. So did that because they weren't inspected or just let it deficiency in
The latter. I'll have to double check. I know for the board packet, we're going to be putting an Excel version of this where it's not listing just 3 months. It's going to provide a full tracking of all of the months in the past that have been using this metric. This version is just more of that up-to-date status on there. I'll look into that and provide it whenever we're putting this in the full packet for the board. Providing explanation if those are still missing in this.
When we drove as well, Jacob, it's so close to when the irrigation was fixed. We're still monitoring those parks for signs of recovery. Before we start to loop them.
So then you want maybe an exclusionary thing before something.
Yes.
Where if it's
Yeah.
not graded, there's a reason. What Brian said or something else.
Yeah, I know in prior months, the Spring Lake parks were all noted as excluded because of the irrigation project and the new sod hadn't been installed in a lot of places.
Yeah, I don't want you to put say like a 3 for everything, that's the fault, and really
No.
1 or something. else
Yeah.
is the deal. So if it's truly ungraded, show us that so we have awareness of it.
That's detailed to the spreadsheet though.
I think I never reviewed the spreadsheet and it did have everything in there. So I will just double check why whenever it was converting into this file, I don't have that. And if it is missing, I will, but I will say there's no default numbers. So that like if a park is not inspected, it's not gonna just have a 3 on there. It would be blank or justification be provided of what that is. We're not just putting default numbers in.
And you're putting those together
Yes, myself and
You're
Christian
gonna
do this report.
with Brian along the process.
Yes,
It's Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
So these numbers are agreed on by the 3 of you. There's no disputes on what the numbers are.
we discussed them and they are logged by management of what the final, I mean, so Brian could dispute the number. And we're still going to write the number based on what management would grade the park as.
So I mean, that's where, just for more transparency of what is being produced, all of them were agreed upon with maintenance and our vendor, or, it wasn't reason justification, things of that nature. That way, you're not producing something here that maybe isn't representing what Ryan believes something is, and you can see what the true representation of the various parks are.
So what I'll probably end up doing on this version, as there's going to be the Excel version, this version will always just keep about a 3-month basis on it. So that way we can have that reference. We kept September as when we started this, and the Excel sheet, as we continue, we didn't want to have a Word document with an ongoing amount of numbers on it. And as well as just hard for you to be able to look as on a judgment basing the numbers, but this report still gives you justifications listed out. If there is any discrepancies, I will, as far as the grading, I'll note the discrepancies. Most of the time, there is a consensus on them. Is that all right if I don't mark a consensus?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And so there was like a 3.4 for one, and then now I'm starting to see halves. So is there now a changing of the rubric of how we're using halves to figure things as far as the issue, rather than just 1.5?
Also mark down 10 pictures, at least to me, like, I don't, you know what I mean, like, I don't know, some of these are just 3.5 grade. But I don't know, do you have like photos or are you taking anything to document these along the way or what's?
taking photos if needed of situations, but we could do a
No.
photo log, it just have to go into, it wouldn't be something we could put in a file
I think
like this, because it would be.
It
a
would
large
make
photo
sense,
log.
I think it makes sense to name whole numbers. And then just provide us with what your metric is for, where, you know, one deficiency is four, two deficiency is three, you know, what quantifies different pieces, so that we understand.
Sure. I'm taking note of
Just-
making,
just trying to-
keeping it whole
What
numbers
is it, right?
and provide kind of a roof or definition to the scale.
Right.
Okay.
So, you know, or further conversations or direct conversations on specific areas, if there is something of concern or something is trending negatively on.
We can do that.
Any other questions?
I just have a question for like, Christian and Brian, just like your general opinion. If you have one on, just like, how is Celebration's overall irrigation system? Do you have an opinion on how it is overall?
So how was Celebration now 27, 29 years old?
96?
Yeah, they started putting the stuff in probably in 95, so.
You have to remember we're 30 years away from when a lot of this was installed. So there are advancements in irrigation technology. Sometimes, you know, the old standby is the best. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. They've come out with a lot of fancy nozzles, and a lot of them do not do what they're gonna do. They clog easily, stuff like that. As far as the irrigation system and Celebration, I think it's fantastic. I'm not a huge fan of drip line, which is the trend that the entire industry is going toward. They're now starting to install drip line on the sod. It's just a little bit much for me, but and in Orange County, in new subdivisions, they're not even allowing irrigation to be installed in the backyard. You have to retrofit. I think Celebration system is fine. I think there's always going to be repairs needed, always going to be improvements that are available. Different circumstances call for different answers. Like a high pressure, low volume nozzle is probably the answer for Island Village. The Island Village irrigation systems were installed terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. You're supposed to have 100% overlap. These things have 0 overlap. Nozzles like these can increase the distance, the water, stuff like that. When people go into, like where we get the question about the dog park every now and then, is the irrigation working at the dog park? Can we install a fancy clock to tell us that it's coming? Yeah, you can install a fancy clock all day long. It'll tell you that the power says the clock is coming on. Does that mean that water's coming through the pipe? Or you can put a flow sensor on there to tell you that water's coming through the pipe. So there are advancements, but do you need a flow sensor when you have a meter right at the front and you can just go and see, okay, water ran last night. It was more than a gallon, so we don't have a small fleet. Irrigation's fine. We're seeing more breaks, large breaks now than we have in the past. These are brought on by heat, they're brought on by cold. I was half expecting to be inundated with phone calls this whole week because of how cold it was. So I think that turn is going to come toward March when the weather starts to warm up. We're probably going to see a lot of these areas in the main lines where there's elbows, but the pipes are separating. Glue doesn't last forever. You know, does that mean you need to replace every pipe in the property? No, but you may have to redo joints. I think the irrigation is fine. It's tested, tried and true. Can advancements be made? Yes. Are they necessary? If we have to say, could we redo Croton Park or put a fancy clock at every park? I'd say redo Croton Park because it affects people's aesthetic feel versus a clock that people are normally they're hitting in pushes.
Ryan, when you say the biggest challenge for Celebration is water pressure or irrigation because of everything crossing. That's where we see the problems.
This is not a Osceola problem. This is not a Celebration problem. This is a Florida problem. Water pressure is going down. In times of drought, the water companies restrict the water pressure coming through the lines. You have to understand they reduce the volume. And if you do not have the volume to fill the pipe, you have reduced the pressure. So will water come out of the head? Yes. Will it come at the the desired flow rate that it's supposed to? No, absolutely not. We have videos, and again, this year it'll be that there are tons of, people calling in and complaining that the irrigation is not working, that it's broken. You go there at 10 o'clock in the morning, you turn it on and everything is running fine. Again, at night it runs, it doesn't, because everyone in celebration, there is set times for everything to run. And if everyone would follow that, it would really help. But even with those set times, there are times when the pressure is so low. One of the first things I do when I get in is call Russ over at Infomart, CCDD, and I say, how's the pressure? You know, and sometimes it's like nothing ran. So we made the decision to start running things through the day. And that's just to keep stuff alive. And unfortunately, we lose a lot of material of it. But again, this is a Florida problem, not Celebration, not Central Florida. I think it was 3 to 5 years ago, Orange County was trying to ban zoysia grass installations and St. Augustine installations, and they were only going to allow Panea grass. They got a major pushback from the sod companies because that's their livelihood, and said, no, we can produce lower irrigation needs for the grass. You know, it's not true. We're going to see drought signs. We're going to see all of that. It's a major problem. And in a case like Island Village where the heads don't already reach each other, imagine them being half. Now you get these big round circles and properties.
Let's see. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, anything else? Done with one? Moving on to two. Bollard light repair at what replacement? Assume that.
To bring Christian up there.
Hello, Christian.
For those of you in the audience, on the line, Christian is our Director of Facility and Operation.
So for the overnights that we have here in Celebration, when Celebration or Dixon start the neighborhood, they fit a design that is those green borders that we have everywhere. Those are built by one company. And you only can buy it from them, but they don't sell it directly. So they have reps to Florida that will cover them. And they're basically a unique system. I cannot buy it. The lights are preparatory, they build it, they make it. So we only can buy it to do that. The light is a LED light. It costs $520 each. Beside that, you have a ballast and you have a surge protector. All combined, we're talking about $650 to rebuild the inside of one of the ballasts. We only can buy it from them, and it's 4 to 6 weeks out. So the more you buy, they're gonna be willing to work with the price. It's all depending. We're talking about not by dozens, not by, they're looking to buy 500, 600. We don't need that many. Our count is in between 30 to 60. But then you multiply that number, we're talking about 45, 50,000 on those retrofits to put back the lights. Previously here in Celebration, there's trying to take it and do something different in the inside, basically take out all the guts and just put one light bulb. If you look at those bulbs, they have 3 different layers. It's a special heavy. They'll be removing that for a regular socket light. You're gonna see a few bulbs that have only like one light on the middle. That's what is being done. So that means that I don't have the capability to do that original parts again. The price of that for that we have 3 different styles here in Celebration. It's a taller one, medium, and small one. They range from 1,200 to 1,800 each. And they're almost 10 weeks out if you're gonna buy the entire thing. So I know we have it all over Celebration, so we need to make the decision if we want to just make a full count and then see which one we can rebuild and which one we need to buy because they already break the inside. And then we can get a number, I can get a quote, but it's going to be one quote. It's not going to be multiple quotes because it's only one company, one rep that can sell it.
So in other words, the situation while we're discussing this, mainly, we had originally wanted to plan on segmenting these things out, like, we're gonna work on this part, we're gonna buy two lights, this one, two lights. Kind of can't do that. So what we kind of need to figure out is if we're, what I think I'm hearing you say, is we either need to make the decision to get a full count of all the lights, buy all the parts and some spares all at the same time, which is gonna be a big ticket item. Or we need to decide on, are we going to not use this particular ball?
Yes, and the difficult part of that one is you have that one all over saturation. So you have that, I would say, you have 1,000 of those up. And we're gonna replace 100. We still have 900, and then you're gonna start releasing matching now. So we need to decide either if we're gonna do that, you need to segment it, which area we're gonna start transitioning to something that we can get easy parts, cheaper, more effective, more up-to-date technology.
How difficult are they, the bollards themselves, to move to a different location? If in fact we decide to go with a different style of bollard, we can do it all in one area, remove some of those and move them to
They're
the.
not, they're just two screw on the bottom.
They're easy.
As soon as you disconnect the main power, hook it up, and then
So we could, for example, say, okay, this park has 6 out of 10. We're gonna replace all of them so that the whole park matches and move the 4 as.
that's some programs that they still work.
Okay.
That's an option, and you can put a new, more up-to-date version of what we can find easier, not that.
See, I was gonna say, I was looking, there's some vintage looking bollards that are $500 as opposed to.
That's not the price of the length of this.
Yeah.
From an added context, this is also a reserve expenditure item, so we were looking at taking these types of items as a one larger purchase for the year, since it's referencing the reserve expenditures instead of coming to every board meeting and microing it out.
So is it the existing bollard exterior is the design category? There's one company that makes
The guts.
the guts that fits.
They make the whole thing. They make the entire set.
So if we're going with someone else, you have to do a whole new follow.
Yeah, they if you pick up a new fixture.
Okay,
Next one to look at is what we follow designs are, not the cost, or
Yeah.
if it's replacing what's
well,
existing.
yeah, you're gonna have to look at
As
the
you
price.
know, it'd be a project where you like it's one go at a time, going through the installation process.
But Katie's up next.
So if we were to replace them all, that all falls under reserves? Is that
So
what
the
you?
reserve has them up for partial replacements every couple of years. So if you wanted to just do everything in one foul swoop, then you'd be accelerating the replacement of other years, but then again postponing the replacement moving forward.
But there's probably, is there warranties?
They have warranty, but they basically have one. So they're not giving you.
And then we own all of them in Celebration?
No, we own the ones in our parks. CDD has their own bollards as well.
Many of these were transitioned to these taller ones from original ones that had a one light bulb, due to just lighting needs.
We ran into this in North Village eons ago, that there was a foot candle issue for keeping the park open at night. That we had to revert to a taller bollard because the foot candles didn't meet the lighting requirement required to keep that area open at night. So that's why we had to switch to that. It was a price tag. But Katie, your point is where I was gonna go with this on, we could decide to replace all of our bollards on the CROA parks. The challenge that we're gonna need to have is this becomes a big animal, because we're gonna have a situation where you have a park that has a bollard and maybe 50 feet over that's CDD property, and they have this bollard and they're different. Are we comfortable with that or not? I mean, to me, I don't know.
Thousands different.
But, you know, it's one of those things where that would be something that we would just want to make aware of if someone says, well, you missed all these bollards in this area. And then it becomes a little bit of a game of, well, that's not our bollard. And at the end of the day, the rest of them don't care. We just care the bollard's different.
We know CMD schedule for replacing these by chance?
I don't, I know they've been replacing some as they go out.
In conversation we had, with we don't redesign. I would hope CCD would be on board with whatever the big something is over a phase period, it'll be in one dollar, so maybe 6 months, 12 months, they're different, but there is an end date where there's only one type of bond in Sunbridge.
I think to me, the other That's one path to go to do consistency. I kind of look at this a little bit like landscaping projects that we have now, where previously we had the same plant material everywhere. And we kind of decided through both Albert and Brian that the plant material should be unique to the village that it's in, give it a little bit more character. I kind of see the bollards in the same light, to make a pun, with that. So if we were to, I'm in favor of if we were to look at just going to a more cost-effective bollard that's easier for your team to service and it's easier for us to get parts. Because I think at the end of the day, if a bollard, as long as it's consistent in the park, like we can't have, 5 lights on one side of the playground and 3 on the other and they look different. We would need to make sure that all the ones that we control in an area, in my opinion, would be the same. But it then gets, if we want to keep everything consistent, let's say we don't want to do that, we want to keep the existing bollards that we have, it would seem to be a conversation that we would want to have with CDD and CROA to say, hi, can we get together on this and figure out, even if they want to say it's going to be 3 different teams that are coming together to purchase this, they're all going to be in the same boat. And so then we can say, well, we have 100 bollards that we need to purchase, CDD has another 100 and CROA has 20. So then we can try to get a little bit more buying power there. But I think we need to decide as a direction which way we want to go.
What is it? Did you say like the difference in price, like cost savings to like go with another one? Do you know?
I need to make sure that if that's where you guys want to go, I need to.
We want to look at it.
The lumens and all the items that will need to be to match apples to apples, but with a more economic and more accessible.
Compares to apples.
Yeah, I need to figure it out. But they range between 500, that normally the price of a bollard, this one is just out of.
So it'd be like maybe half.
What's our time horizon again for this? And what are we looking?
If we buy a brand new one, that the whole thing is almost 10 weeks. If we buy the inside part, it's 4 to 6 weeks.
And everything scales, so scale of like 10 urgency, right? And with other replacement reserves coming up, we kind of figure out, well, 2, like, is this something to be due tomorrow? Or is this?
It's just that you start noticing more, you have 3 here, 4 here, 5, like you start seeing it that is missing.
So we have to move it up the agenda.
The complex has a lot out, which is utilized a lot in the evenings for soccer. I know Artisan has quite a few out in their parks.
I would like to see you come back with some bollard options that would look similar, because again, differences between parks, I don't know with you, I don't think that it's a big deal. And I'm off the top of my head, I'm having a hard time coming up with any immediate adjacencies with CROA parks and CDD.
The only area that I can think of is Spring Park, with the areas in the views that are adjacent to the.
Oh, Spring Lake.
Spring Lake, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm having a hard time in the main.
Yeah, to the views, that are located directly next to.
Good news is those are newer.
Yeah, and so they should be, okay.
Yeah.
But what I think is, I don't know, I think that I would be comfortable with supporting just another option, and I would even say to try to accelerate this a little bit, that if there are 3 that you say that are okay, you say these 3 bollards would meet the technical requirements of a lamp, before it even comes to the board, send those to Mark, and just have Mark say, we're okay with these, and then that way, when they come to the board, we can just vote.
Good. I think that's a good plan. Anybody opposed? Thank you all very much. Let's move on to the dog park merchandise.
Okay, so currently, the dog park has an unwritten agreement where the dog park committee is allowed to sell Celebration Unleashed merchandise, and that money goes into a semi-separate pot and can be utilized for dog park improvements or dog park. This isn't really in line with other committees. Other committees, when funds are spent for their, like for events, for example, when they get revenue for selling popcorn or they get sponsorships, that goes into the general operating fund to just wash through the rest of the profit and loss statement. So we wanted to bring this to the board's attention, that if you want to continue to do this, we would feel more comfortable if this was in writing and in their resolution next year. Or if you want to bring them more in line with the other committees. The tech committee used to have a budget. It was removed as the board feeling that the committee shouldn't specifically have a budget dedicated to them because the board has the responsibility for spending money. So we wanted to bring this up as it's becoming more and more of an issue as the dog park committee is getting a little bit more active in community events.
So I have a off-color question. Are other committees complaining about it? Or is it more of just we're trying to do it above?
We just want to do it above board.
Okay.
How much money are we talking?
They currently have about $16,000 in their little
And
account
this is from merchandise.
for merchandise.
It's solely from merchandise.
I mean, this is the way that I look at it. The dog park it started with this in mind, though. I mean, it started with the monument structure out there. I mean, it's always kind of had this history of, I don't want to say funding itself, but it was.
A scrappy underdog.
Yeah, exactly. It was able to do that. So, I mean, to me, I think it makes sense to just memorialize it, you know, say that if they're gonna sell, and to me, it's a little bit different than popcorn or something or a sponsorship. I mean, you could say that what if we wanted to have someone sponsor the dog park? And, you know, we could, I don't care, it's a Celebration Unleashed Dog Park brought to you by, who's the new taco stand? There you go. So, okay, and, you know, and then that money goes to support the dog park. I think that's fine.
I'm with you. It's not a ton of money. I think memorializing it makes sense.
So just add it to the resolution now, or wait? Do you?
I would add it to the resolution. I mean, there's no point in adding it to the resolution now. I would just add it to the resolution moving forward. But we just wanted to start the discussion in case there was any additional information that you wanted. We just want to memorialize in writing, so everything's above board.
We don't see that on, enough and revenue.
It's basically sitting in your operating.
This is strictly to their exclusive merchandise sales only.
Yeah, and this, to Eric's point, this has been something they did from the very beginning to help pay for the dog park. It was a way to sort of ease the community on the expenditure and to get a nicer park. They raised some money, and to continue to raise money on a park like that has a high degree of wear and tear. And
So they pay for the merchandise, and then they sell it, whatever profit they get,
we're not buying the merchandise.
it's not coming
One
out.
of the things one of the things they're working on right now is to use this for agility equipment in both parks. They're researching that, and they would use these funds to pay for that rather than operating funds or
An HOA.
capital improvement.
So they had offered to use it for the dog park lights too a couple of years ago, but the board decided to just pay for that out of capital.
I think this makes sense. The other question that I have is how do the sales for the Memorial Garden?
Memorial Garden.
Memorial Garden, do we still sell those? The
Foundation
I
sells
mean,
those.
the
foundation,
foundation does the Memorial Garden.
Yeah, foundation does.
so then it doesn't matter, it's separate.
I just don't see it any, why make waves?
No, I'm trying to think of if there's a wave in the future that we could.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't.
so I just need to see the language of it because I don't want that under the disguise of a dog park having something downtown and then saying, oh, all this revenue was theirs, that they should be going, no, this was a CROA event.
So we could say
With-
merchandise,
So we
merchandise.
just need to be clear on what the language is and along with this to the unleashed merchandise, I don't see it.
Move on to 4, net battery replacement.
Net battery replacement. This was on Q4 of 2024. This is a reserve expenditure item. We needed more batteries in Q4 than we had in the reserves. We decided to just phase it and do the remainder in Q1 of 2025, Q1 2025, and looking to have an expenditure of $11,678.80 to complete the batteries needed for our community.
And you need this as an action item in 2 weeks.
We do. This is This item is impacting our community standards as we held on the community standards NEVs in Q4 2024 on battery replacement. And we are having issues with those NEVs being able to have enough battery life to complete the daily rounds needed in community standards. So they're having to stop theirs because they don't have enough battery.
Any questions?
So if they're, that batteries still really need new ones, but isn't that the appropriate use for whatever band match needs, right? If they're doing rounds and the full battery that's brand new isn't gonna last, then are we using the wrong tool to do the job?
These batteries were up for replacement. They probably should have been,
No,
this cycle should have been probably a year prior.
They have in the past lasted the day.
They have.
Yes, they have lasted the
So
day.
not anything-
It's just their old batteries.
We're spreading what we have beyond the capacity that
No, they're just old batteries.
we have.
All right, we'll move that onto the agenda. The committee member usage of an at town hall email address.
Yes, you did.
I'll say.
So-
Say what?
Go ahead, Lauren. I'll follow up.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the tech committee discussed this at their November meeting. They highlighted some security concerns with members using personal email accounts for CROA business. There's also the lack of ability to pull emails for, in terms of records requests, which is why in the last couple of years, we've been providing them a town hall email address and letting them use their personal email account in the email collective, so we could still pull those emails. The tech committee has unanimously made a recommendation that all CROA committee members utilize the at town hall email addresses. And management's recommendation is to adopt that recommendation and make it effective for the 2025-26, and notice that on the application that would be an expectation of committee members moving forward.
So that's another item to go to the agenda.
Yes.
So really, this is, it's just ARC covenants. They have the highest volume of email.
No, MPEG also has it. It's across all committees. I brought this up last year and we voted on it, and it didn't pass the board, but I'm glad that there's now a recommendation because I strongly agree with everything they say.
2 years ago.
Oh, I was gonna say, I didn't vote on it.
No. Sorry, 2023-4.
Got it, okay.
But yeah, this is.
And again, these would be, if they left the committee, they would lose this address.
Yes.
It's something that done the whole time.
Yeah.
And then it was left so that you would use it personally with them, but this time, no, we just need to shut it down. You go to the town hall. And
Everybody okay with putting it on the agenda? All right.
Yeah, we're too big an
January, July
organization for-
evaluation of grant manager's contract and next steps.
Jared was saying.
Oh, Jared, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, I was just saying we're too big an organization to be using AOL accounts for business.
Yeah. Wow, people still have those? Gosh.
We're jumping on this.
Boy. Yeah. All right. January, July evaluation of grant manager's contract and next steps.
All right, so I have this as the agenda. I'm not sure. We're early tweaking some consider some of these too. We just got the renewal, and I've been doing some thinking about how did we get to that point. And we started with these surveys. We did a community survey. We did a board survey. We did an action plan. We had the task force that we implemented, and we had them look at the contract, had them redline things, and then we got together and we did the contract renewal. There's been a whole church of this process, right? And I think I hope that we all want grant managers to try to succeed, right? We really do. Whether you are on the other side of the vote, hopefully on the side that renewed it, we want success. But what happens if we don't get it? And I think we need to be mindful of the next 6 months. So January to June, going to be in this period of really a new journey for us with these performance guarantees built into the contract. Where really we put teeth into this thing. And look, this is an uncomfortable conversation, Lauren and Jacob, but it's a conversation that we have to have. So I think we have to be mindful of the fact that we're still not getting performance in those months. Then, because I don't want it to be a mad scramble where we sit here and we're like, okay, now what? We need to change the performance guarantee.
Well, so the first step is there are monetary penalties.
You're right.
That is the first step.
but continued non-performance. So we just continue going down this path of just getting $1,000 refunded back to.
I think our discussion was that there reaches a point, and we don't know what that point is.
Right.
Because it depends on the scope of the lack of performance that we said, you go to a 90-day out.
Correct, and where I'm just trying to see if there's consensus around this is, by the time we get to June, we're gonna have 6 months of performance here. We're gonna be meeting with CROA in July to talk about the cost sharing. There's gonna be changes there too, and ultimately, this is a CJC contract. So there's gonna have to talk with them about anything, going to RFP stating whatever that is. I think we just need to mentally get into a place that we're gonna look at these 6 months. Hope we're succeeding, but we need to be comfortable with potentially a conversation around where do we go from here?
And I think that conversation is a quarter by quarter conversation. I really do. That's what we discussed, is having that conversation. And if there are deficiencies, it's why are there deficiencies and what's going to be done about it in the next one. I don't think it's a 6-month thing. I think it's a 1-year thing, but you know, at 6 months out, we'll have an idea of whether there's progress.
That's what I think is, and we're checking in on this.
We're going to be checking in.
I don't want to take RFP completely off the table. I think the reality is we need performance, we have to get performance. And there's going to have to be anything that we don't. I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to succeed. I feel like we have the people now, we have the contract, we have guarantees. But it's mainly just so we're not just wandering around aimlessly.
I don't think so. Be wondering.
I put it this way, that looking at the worst case scenario for Grand Action is there's a guaranteed RFP in 3 years. That's their baseline.
Yeah.
For the review, you're gonna get your first quarter review. That's gonna be the baseline. You're gonna get your second quarter review, and then you can start seeing a trend.
Right.
And from there, it goes every 3 months on. Is
And that's why I don't think-
trajectory still improving?
I don't think that you can tell a trajectory in 6 months. I still don't think you can.
I would disagree. I think we're going to have a pretty good, I mean, if we're seeing
Yeah.
fail for 6 months.
Yeah, well, if we fail for 6 months,
That's what
then
I'm saying.
if we see fail, across the board failure for 6 months,
You shouldn't have voted to renew.
right, we got,
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying we just need.
but I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
I'm
But
just.
to that point, RFP is gonna take probably a year and a half, just to finish. So if you are seeing that their performance, then clearly there needs to be an on-ramp to get that, be out there and what that time is gonna look like. It's not
I
something.
hope we don't see that.
And part of the reason why it was on the other side, not only was there wasn't a plan, was no articulation of what that looks like and develop. It was just such a good RFP. That's a mindless comment that doesn't think about a vision or anything along those lines. Let's look at this, let's try to get it fixed, but let's think about how do we map this out. And that's all.
That's reasonable.
That's the other thing too, on that is, I think there always needs to be that balance and not to put a fire on anyone, but is it the company or the personnel? So that's something that, yeah, you can have the grant manager's contract continue, but is there personnel problems that need to be changed or people that aren't performing that, you know, it's not a grant manager that's doing bad, it's an associate. who's doing it. So
I think
that
that's-
always has to be balanced as well. This is why I'm trying to.
I think you need to go into this year having faith that it is gonna get better. Or you shouldn't have voted to renew a 3-year term to begin with, a 1-year would have made more sense. So the conversation doesn't quite make sense to me right now. However, what Andrew was saying about personnel, I think at the end of the day, that's up to Grand Manners because they're the ones that are gonna be getting hit financially if, you know, they aren't performing. So then it'll be up to them to make those changes needed. So they're not getting those financial hits based on.
And I honestly cannot imagine any corporation anywhere who has a better idea where they need to be and more incentive to improve. Therefore, jumping to, well, what do we do if they don't? Almost seems self-defeating.
No, I think it's thinking ahead so that we don't scramble and we're just, now what do we do?
Well, in 6 months, if they're bad, then we look at it. Then we say, plan time. But yeah, organizational health, let's do that.
Okay, so this actually ties into this. I'm talking about personnel. this is not something we're going to solve today, but I think this is really a mandate for Grand Manners, for Lauren and Jacob. When you start talking about high performing teams, we've heard Mike talk about this a lot, we've heard Gary Hudspeth out there. You obviously have compensation, you've got training, you've got all these other things, but if there's something else going on potentially that we don't have a lot of insight into with why is there turnover, why are people leaving, flooding, whatever that may be. So I think
May I proffer an opinion?
yes,
We're the problem.
I agree. I agree with that.
We, the boards,
Yes.
the boards over the past several years. I think we are a big part of the problem that a lot of employees do not like the thought of, I could lose my job any second. I think I'll go find a more stable job.
I think, so to me, it's more than the board. And this gets into a very philosophical discussion for every moment. But we have some very, very, very negative comments that come not only from the board, but then also from residents.
Yeah.
And it takes a certain type of person to understand that this person might just be pissed off in a neat event, or no matter what we do, this person's never going to be happy. And we need to try to solve for as much as we can and then move forward with that. I think the challenge that I've seen and why I ran is I don't think dismiss the management company. Look at the people. I don't think the people felt that the board would support them in their actions or decisions.
No, I don't think they felt the board valued that.
And I think that the challenge that I have is that I can go all day long and turn and I can say, Jacob, I think you screwed this thing up. What the heck? But then at the same point in time, if someone comes and Jacob's in the middle of working on something and we say, we need you to go over here and do this other thing, I now can't hold someone accountable for the original piece of what I was asking to do, because I don't know if we haven't empowered them to say no. To say, I'm working on this other thing right now. I understand you requested this.
We're micromanaging.
But yes, and so I think that the challenge then becomes the management company needs to be able to manage the board. And to be able to state when a request is unreasonable. It's then up to the board to state, I disagree with you. And then we can say, you're out. And we move on. Or we need to understand the logic behind it. And I think we saw that with ARC. ARC, the committee has done an amazing job of.
Yes, it went from totally non-functional to incredibly functional.
And there's multiple things that went into that. The committee worked their tails off to be able to do those things. But then there was also more consistency into what that committee was doing from what we were seeing from the management side. There were things that we needed to see in consistency in applications, what was being accepted, how things were being sent in. We raised that, we stayed kind of out of it as a board. And we said, you need to fix this. And now we're doing better. There's always room for improvement. But I think there's some of those cases where we need to understand that if someone's coming to us and they're saying, I'm working on this one thing right now, there's only a certain amount of bandwidth that one person can work on something, or a team of people can work on something. And we need to help from a board perspective understand our priorities are these things. And this is what we need to focus on right now. And if something else comes in, well, then one of those priorities might need to be reevaluated.
I think you make a great point. And I do also, I love the point about people being mad. I think a lot of this goes back to, remember, Grand Manners replaced another management company.
Oh, yeah.
That was, by the way, by some people in town, hated. One in particular sort of kind of came in and took over and started getting rid of people because he was personally angry with CCMC. It became a personal vendetta, and we have to avoid that. And I think we've gone a long way, a huge distance in 10 months, giving them a sense of security and agency. And agency. We've said to Lauren and Jacob, do stuff, do it well. We won't bug you as much. We still do some.
I think that,
Along those lines, though, I think that's where maybe there's been more challenging leadership on the board for grant matters, and we've been more rational, and I hope that continues moving forward, but it's a partnership, and Lauren, you should feel empowered to say no to Don, no to anyone on the board, no to any future board, and then that's there. And if anyone on your team feels that way, that they can't say no, or someone asks them something, or everything, then they should be coming to you or their director and saying, hey, someone's asked me, should I be doing this or should I be fixing the problem? Because if I send you an email at 3 p.m. and there's a flood going on at the playground, I expect you to fix the playground, not answer my email. So that's where if it's something that you need to have the internal protocols within grant matters, if associates are dropping things or unsure of things, they need to go to their direct managers and work with you to make sure that priorities are being followed or whatever is being done, and it gets in the queue of what's next.
I think all of this is fun. I think we obviously have to continue looking in the mirror, and I think your comments were absolutely, yeah, but there is another part of this too, on their side with the training and the recognition and just the culture that you, and I'm not saying that you don't have it, but I'm saying that just needs to continue to be looked at, right? Because you build these teams, you want people that are, you know, that are engaged, they're happy to come to work, right? And if that's because of the board too, like that's a serious, if they're not happy because of the board, we need to know that. If it's something else, something, you know, that may be something we can't control, but I think the task too, if everyone's aligned to, like continue to look at that. Because we need people to come to work happy, engaged, want to do good work, and want to deliver. Because then that's poured out and, you know, everything that we see with the action plan and getting grass and things. So,
Team culture is a high priority. Yeah, and it has been since day one. When I walked in November 21, everybody was living in silo. Nobody wanted to talk to each other. It was, this is my area, leave me alone. The managers are not like that anymore. The teams all work together. It's highly collaborative. We do regular recognition. Can we improve? We can always improve our team culture, but it is a high priority at town hall to make sure.
And if we want to continue that process, our primary goal over the next few months needs to be fixing 851 so they can be back together.
we need to be comfortable with the board. Like, I think that we brought up bobbles. I know this sounds really silly, but it's gonna be expensive. And it's these type of things that, I live in Arts. There's a lot of bobbles in there. And I take pictures, so you all know when I go for a walk. You know, because you get a bunch of fellows for sorry, myself breaking tickets for it. But I think, yes, but I think the piece for me is there's gonna be some things that we're gonna need to spend money on to fix and to maintain. We just did it with the pool heaters. Instead of trying to fix kind of what we had, we're like, nope, they're due for replacement. We're gonna replace the darn thing. Replace it. And then we need to be comfortable with that. And I want to make sure that our management team is comfortable with bringing those things forward too. Now, I don't think that we need a private jet, but I think that, you know, if there's an argument for why we need to do something, then let's hear about it. And it shouldn't be a contentious argument.
I think today was a good example with Christian,
Oh, yeah.
bringing that forward when it's, to me, that seemed very proactive. And like helping us understand what's coming and ways to address it. So, yeah, I agree with you. That was a good example.
can I recognize Mr. Jackson real quick? Come up. And should be here.
If I could have just a moment before he does, I want to just address some of the things that were stated in the room. One on that Andrew mentioned and Jared echoed was chain of management. That is something we even had a managers meeting today that we're putting in guidelines and processes for this chain of management, really using this and referencing, you know, if there is an issue, don't come to, you know, use the levels we have. We're putting thoughtful leaders in leadership positions so that way they can lead their team and handle those situations, as well as we talked about conflict resolution across different teams, where we have one department and then we said, even if it's just a disagreement in an elevator, and in passing, and it was with a different department. Take those to the management, your the department managers. And as department managers, handle that conflict resolution, understand each side before, and go back down. And we have to resolve each of these issues. This was not as we have issues. This was all proactive in the sense of just making sure that we are working through this chain on this. As Lauren mentioned, it's something that I felt on my first day from her leadership, and it's something that I stick to strong as well on. We have to take care of our people and our team environment. With that being said, as we know, culture is led from the top. While we are the leaders of our town hall team, there is sometimes a fear from members in our team of direction or of leadership from our board. I do see there is an opportunity of outreach potential or support for our frontline employees on understanding that recognition or appreciation from our town leaders.
I'll push it back a little bit on Jacob, Lauren, and Demetrius of, attrition was something that there was trying to put in the contract and we weren't able to get it in. But for Grand Matters, look internally, is there opportunity of how you can improve the attrition within Grand Matters, right? That doesn't require the board, doesn't require community anything. Is there an opportunity there? You guys think about it, brainstorm, come back to the board if there's an opportunity and share that with us.
I will say, I absolutely agree. Attrition is important because in the sense of we want happy people here to build a career with us. However, especially with the change in our leadership in the past 6 months, of a lot in my role, Christian's role, reorganizing that we've been doing, there has been a lot of process implementation and us standing behind our processes. This doesn't work for all people. And sometimes that means that there are people that are used to an old way and we are changing our processes for the better to be proactive and listening to our community and trying to meet, work together where we might be parting with people. And I want to make sure that those aren't looked at badly as something not working in attrition.
And I think that happened too when the hiring of you and Christian, like we did see some turnover, like because we didn't have the right people. And now we do.
Very normal.
You invited me. Remember, you invited me. Slam your back. John Nelson knows if you're talking. Let me first compliment you on the dialogue, because I think the dialogue we just had is probably the most productive, insightful dialogue we've had in quite a while. A little bit of soul searching. And you're gonna have to do that more and more and more. And put quality time into that. Because that's the only way we're gonna change. Jacob talked about, changing people and everything else. There's change management processes. And you have to really have a focus on change management. Best idea in the world fails typically because there isn't a good change management process. Just the way the world is. So when you're doing that, especially when it involves people, it becomes even more critical. Know that I see the heads problem. That's where it is. Don, I agree with you. You're the problem. You're also the solution. You got to lead us out of this. You're our elected leadership. You're the ones that have to lead us out of this. And I do think you are micromanaging. Definitely micromanage. I think you all know that. Okay. I tried to figure out how to communicate to you to stop that. How do you, modify? And I think just remember, there's a perpetual question you have to ask. Anytime something comes up, you have to look at Grand Matters and say, what do you think? What's your recommendation? Don't start, each of you are throwing your ideas and your solutions at it. Look at them. They're the subject matter experts. Make them come to you with the solutions. You did it today with the lights, the balance. Bring some options. Christian, bring some options to see what we are. Eric, you talked about negativity, the residents, and the board, and everything else. Yeah, I think there's a way to manage that from the standpoint of being more constructive. I think questions from the audience, questions among yourselves. And the best example I can give you there to think about is the glass half empty or is it half full? Right? And the more aggressive, negative people, the glass is always half empty. Becomes a way of life. And if you can each just think about the glass is half full, I think you'll be much more constructive in your approach. And I think it'll be much better received. Laura, I'm glad to hear that you're seeing more collaboration. It's not a silo anymore. You're working on culture. I think that's real important. That's got to be there. Culture's got to be a high priority. Culture is sometimes an end result. It's an end result of getting the proper alignment in the organization. And you're talking about getting alignment with people communicating, silos, and all that. So think about alignment. That leads to culture. Culture is a big, scary word that nobody get their arms around, but you know it when you see it. And you just need to work on alignment. So you've got residents, you've got board members, and you've got grand managers. And you got to have alignment among those people. And you have to know what each job is. You each have to respect those jobs. I'm going to wrap up here. I just want to see if there's anything more. I'll probably recap some things in a note to you. It's not fair just to go with this. Oh, trust. You've got to establish trust, that alignment, and getting anything done. Without trust, it's going to go nowhere. And I think there's a lack of trust right now. I'm not going to say it's there or here or wherever. I think it's in general. You know, there's got to be trust. Maybe that's because lack of respect that happens at times. You know, kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Kind of societal.
It's what?
Kind of societal in a way, right?
Yeah. Employee training and development. Jacob, you touched on retention. There's probably nothing more important than that. You make the people feel good. Leaders, one of the biggest responsibility of a leader is to manage the self-esteem of an organization. That's your role. And you have to manage the self-esteem of the residents. You have to manage the self-esteem of the grand managers. And you're the elected leadership that has to lead that. So I'll tell you, don't think so much about the what. Think about the how. The board has to be above all this stuff. You have to work on the business. You shouldn't be working in the business. And you're outside, you're on the business. Your oversight, you set the vision, you set the direction. They do the what. They work in the business, brand managers. That's really where your head should be. That should be what you're thinking of. I know it's tempting to dive in all the time and everything else, but you'd be much more productive long term if you work on the business. Questions? I'll stop there.
I guess comment I'll make on micromanaging, I would say is, I think the board, as we were this year, needed to micromanage because of how far off track Grand was. There was a lot of things that were broken, a lot of things that weren't working. We had to get into the nitty-gritty. As we take steps forward, we should be at that, because now we have a trusted partner and that is performed. And I always joke that my best business relationship is when I have a call, because I know they're doing it right, and I don't have any problems if someone complaining. Hopefully, as a CROA board of grand manager, we get to that point where there are no issues, or if there are issues, we just pass it along to them and take care of it, and there's no problems. But I don't think we're there at that point. We now have defined performance metrics that we have to go off of, so there's more structure for the board and directors with interaction with the management. So I think that helps too. So that's where I get where Mike's coming from, where, yeah, we weren't the leads, but we were the leads because we had a playground out there that had a lean on it and wasn't built. We needed to get in there and do a turnaround for our community. As you guys progress with the new board, you shouldn't have to do that because grant managers is performing to the expectation of both the community and the directors.
And I'll always be straight with you. I never have an agenda. I just tell you the way it is. Take it for what it's worth. I think one of the greatest pitfalls of leaders is rationalization. And you're looking back at history now and saying, this is why it was that way. We are bad people. We did this because we had to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a terrible slippery slope to get on. And I'm, Andrew, just use that as an example.
I hear you.
So when you catch yourself looking backwards and saying that's why it's the way it is, no one wants to hear why the way it is. What are you going to do to make it different?
we established the policy for the playgrounds. We're the ones who approve those playgrounds. We're the ones who have oversight. So there's a lot to unpack in that. I hope
Royal,
that
we,
Yeah, I can take offense of anything that happened prior to being here. That's what I'm saying. I guess it's taking a little time, but there's been a progression of different people now that we have performed.
total money.
It's gotten better.
It doesn't.
But again, that's where I think. There's been almost, that explains there's been no oversight, to too much oversight, and now we're getting back to the appropriate.
and there you just said it. This is all pendulum.
It's balance, all right? It's all balance. But not only, and I'm gonna say to Grand Managers, you have not stepped up. Grand Managers has not stepped up. You need to really be forceful and take the ball and run. That's something you really have to do. You're doing a little bit more, but I'll just give you an example. Today in the board pack, we're gonna talk about the RFP for the legal services. So you've got 4 on a sheet and all the information's there. So you basically brought that here, put it on the table with them, the board, said, what do you think? Wouldn't it be nice if there was a recommendation there?
That was last year's RFP.
This was last year. So we're basically, we're gonna
As
discuss.
good as this year.
No, it's.
It still stands as a good example. There was an RFP with everything summarized very nicely. It's still a good object list.
Yeah.
And there's no recommendation. You know, it just, you gotta own that. That's gotta be your deal on this. That's the responsibility of line.
I will support my comment that you need to have a voice. Have a stance, right? It's not just, oh, we have something, we're gonna let the board determine.
I think
You always have an opinion, which it's gotten better.
It really has. I gotta tell you, the difference is night and day.
I told you over and a lot, you need to manage it. You have to manage up with us. But you do, we need you to push back.
Me and Eric.
You and Eric, but that's, I like all. This guy left them all.
It's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One last thing, give Brad Wheeler some grace.
Yeah,
Give him some grace, because I think you're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. They're gonna work from their end. We need to give them some grace, and the glass is half full. Think about that.
Yep.
Okay,
thanks, totally. Thank you, Mike. Let's move on to procurement.
Let's get, so the only thing.
And we're done with that.
Let's give it on the next workshop, because there is a lot of good information in here that we got in the action plan. We didn't talk about it though. We didn't actually sit down and,
We've never gone through it, dug through it.
so can we put them in February, just because there's some good stuff here that I think we need to spend some time.
Could we prioritize it as number 1 because we keep
That
picking
would
it?
be great.
When you mentioned the, it's in the 2024.
Yeah.
Okay, not the afternoon. Procurement.
He's talking.
Yes.
What's in here?
Procurement and your maintenance, because it's out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Next up is I assume this is an action item,
Yes.
the number 10. This
So-
is gonna go on the agenda.
Yeah, this is the Parkview Townhomes has 49 trees in the near the road that they're wanting to get trimmed back. This is in an attempt to provide more light for their landscaping, to look at other landscaping issues they're having regarding sod. They've gotten a couple of quotes. Their committee has approved this expense. And we are looking to put this as a consent item agenda on the board meeting.
One question for you is this truly CROA responsibility or is this the defendants on the streets?
Sorry.
The CCDD has, they have their parameters for when and where they will trim trees. Anything above those parameters is on the individual homeowner or CROA to trim the trees.
They passed a resolution, as I understand. There were 2 ago,
Middle of last year.
basically, they said they.
I'm just making sure that we're not setting any bad precedent by saying Parkview's cutting these, but that means they're not actually.
It's a
Grant
good,
matches
just,
do our parts or something.
yeah, I mean, to me, it opens up, well, aren't we don't maintain board box, I think, we're just not gonna do it. I don't know, that to me is a little bit weird, but. That's, I don't know what it is right now.
So are these truly an easement or this is on?
Their easement trees,
They just want more light.
they just
So
want, they want to
And
thin
it's
them out.
on the back half
Yes,
of the tree.
And they,
Which is silly, why that's how it is right now, but.
Yep.
this is-
I mean, it's that way with all of our trees. The rules have changed. It's, they're only gonna cut if it affects safety.
The tree's dead if it's safety of transgressing the sidewalk, and I think that's it.
and getting below a certain.
Of the height.
of the road.
Yeah, that's that's public safety. Yeah.
So it's truly the responsibility.
Yep.
It's good.
The only other thing though, are the service areas budgeting for that now?
This is coming out of their reserves from their landscaping.
But I'm saying it's subsequent, like, is that not something that they're building in?
It's something to discuss with the service areas. It's their decision if they want to do that.
So. Not getting into the weeds. I do think we need to communicate though very clearly to everyone what the service area will do for the trees. And leave it at that. Just so that it's out there, so that we have consistency between different service areas.
Yes,
That communication is, I think, more broad for all residents, because we are hearing this from condos, single family homes, service.
Yeah, trim my tree.
We have it in our parks.
Yeah, yeah.
Protection for CROA and the service areas is, I think we want photographic evidence for a number of months after the fact, so that there's nothing that can come back to CBD says, you cut the tree, you killed the tree, we're not going to.
Yeah, so-
Just to have that line of belief under that, ensures that it was green, everything was budding, pretty much wrong with the.
so before we start any projects that could potentially impact CDD property, we walk it with Russ from CDD, we video it with him, and then we inspect it with Russ afterwards. So yes, we will do that with the trees as well, and a certified arborist is utilized to trim the trees.
Yeah, so we have that protection, so it's probably not or something.
I think they're crossing T's and dotting I's.
May I say something on this stuff? Because I've been screwed on this topic twice already, like, it's very serious. So after that law was passed, there is also another section of that law that says if the tree dies, you are fined $1,000 and any legal fees, and you have to replace that tree. No matter if you take pictures or anything, it's in the.
That's from CDD.
That's CDD law. So you guys should be aware of that too.
That might be something we can talk
Yes,
to.
well. So I'm one of the members of the town committee, and the trees have been woefully neglected for many years. And it's to the point where nothing is growing in purpose. That's why I started this process, to get the trees better groomed and better health, so we can move forward. There's always a chance a tree could die because we've neglected it. If you like trees, I hate the phrase tree hugging, but you have to trim them, feed them, and cut them down when they're unhealthy, right? So we're just starting to catch up to that. I'm disappointed that CCV or its predecessors planted those trees and they unilaterally adopted something that's convenient for them as opposed to taking care of the trees that they or their predecessors planted 30 years ago. They're a little disappointing. But I have other problems with that.
Which I guess along those lines, right, it's 50-50 split. It's probably,
We would
reach out to society and have some type of scheduling for, this is the vendor we're using to trim all the trees and the schedule to take care of this.
We have any attorneys talking to each other?
We have a schedule for trimming all the trees?
No, I'm saying, get something in place that is a joint agreement with CROA and.
I don't think we should really try to get the business of trimming trees.
The attorneys talking?
Unless
They're responsible for the back 50% of the trees.
no, but what I'm saying is, we don't want to get into being arborists across the entire community. I think that's a nasty slippery slope.
Aren't we offering?
No. No, only, you generally let trees grow. I have a tree that's been in front of my house for 25, almost 30 years. I just let the tree grow. They trim it on the street side, but you let it grow. I don't manage trees. You don't, generally, most arborists are gonna say, don't manage your, let your tree grow unless it's got a problem. So, no, I don't think we should get into that at all. That's a lot of money. Start talking about doing that in all the service areas and whenever somebody says, I want to improve my view, or whatever it might be, no.
Yes, it's hard. We're finding the tree growing. For towns, people, so it's like.
We don't penalize people for their trees. We don't write people up for trees. We don't. Do we write people up for trees? For what?
For the tree
If
rate.
it's over the gate, or like if there's certain, if it's on.
Well, that's in their.
Oh, you're talking about easement trees? No.
No, do we even on a tree in the yard say your tree can't grow past a certain point and trim it? Oh, a tree?
Yes, if it's touching a house, if it's touching a house.
If it's touching a house, but if it's not touching a house, no, okay. That's going on the agenda. Let's do a service area department action plan discussion.
Okay, so you want to bring this up
Yes.
and maybe walk us through.
Jared, would you like me to share my screen so you can see it as well?
That's okay. I have my documents open. Thank
Okay.
you.
Then I will.
Walk us through, and just for those of the audience who were in the last. You worked out everything we asked for this. We talked about, yeah, thank you. We talked about looking at the service area a little bit differently, reorganizing, coming up with some reimagination, if you will, of kind of what's going on. Because I heard from residents over the last month and a half that we had to do things differently. So we tasked you all with looking at this, coming up with some ideas, and that's what we are today. So to the comment that was made earlier, this is a very, very, very rough draft. This is the first time we're talking about this, so there's no pride in authorship. So let's all just talk about it and see where we're. So take it away.
Yeah, so as you may or may not know, there are 14 service areas in Celebration. They are serviced by 2 individuals, Rose, your service area manager, and Belize, the service area administrator. That's a lot of townhomes to keep track of, landscaping agreements, projects for painting, roofing, pressure washing, just standard exterior maintenance. As part of the tail end of this year, when we saw quite a few tripping points in the service area, we took a step back on the management side and said, where do we need to button this up? And Charles brought this to the forefront too when he became the service area liaison, and we wanted to put some processes in place on our end that formalized and set expectations for our service area department in terms of communicating with the service area committees, communicating with service areas that do not have committees. So we're making more information available to people easier to help cut down on some questions for them, as well as to better memorialize meetings with committee members, create some formality and ensure that we were following proper processes just to ensure everything was above board.
Lauren, could you quickly touch on, just for the record for everyone, why some places have a committee and some don't?
So some areas have committees and some don't, because each service area can request the board pass a resolution to allow them to create a service area committee. That service area committee is not created unless they have a meeting in which they achieve quorum and a majority of the quorum vote to approve creation of the service area committee. So the service areas that do have committees have gone through that process. We do have service areas who have tried to create a committee but have not achieved that. And then we do have service areas that have not since been interested in creating a committee.
There are 10 service area committees? 8.
So I'll kick it to Jacob to kind of go through the details of the action plan.
So this action plan is also, could be used as a term, but as a process improver. As a lot of these items, we wanted to work strategically to make sure that this team that is really quite stretched as far as hand resources for the size of workload assigned to them, that we weren't just writing something to add more work to them, which inevitably wouldn't be sustainable for their success. So these items we made sure we collaborated with the service area team on the feasibility of them. Most of these items are just improvements to current processes, with the item 1 being the largest change to this. This item is trying to make it more aligned, as they really do individually operate as smaller versions of HOAs or portfolio style associations. That is quite common in the grand managed, real managed larger accounts. So that would be a chapter 720 association, as all HOAs in this area are. So this would include making all committee meetings to be treated as such. This would be involving making them being noticed to the full anytime that the committee is meeting as in with quorum, making those meetings being noticed, making those having them being published to the website with notice, having the meetings being open to the community. In when that says community, that is their service area community. With in-person or virtual attendance as options, meeting to be recorded and those being posted for the community to be able to see as well, and meeting minutes to be taken and approved by the committee in the subsequent meeting. That's just a lot alignment. A lot of this is very familiar to board members in this room, as this is standard process for our 720 HOA.
So basically, we're treating them like a board.
And one of the reasons we're doing this is there's a lot of instances where the committee will make a decision about something happening in the service area, and there's a lack of transparency with the community, and the community is going, well, why was this decision made? Or why am I not getting new landscaping? Or why are we not spending money on this? So having this more open and available for those residents will help in that.
For the 8 committees, how many people are on this? 500?
3 to 5.
They do range.
How often, I guess, some next year have become up to one?
Maybe officially quarterly.
Question, one resident had mentioned, why aren't they allowed to have the homeowners' email addresses? I think, yeah, that we don't have access.
We don't have.
It's email fast, we go through Rose, address to the town.
So it's just like you guys don't have access to all of the town, the homeowner email addresses that we have that we can e-blast out to.
I would say, so state services.
20,000.
So the service area committee, I think, should have the power, if something is approved, to request.
That town hall have that.
Yes.
And they do, that's what they do.
Is that a resolution we could pass?
It's already done.
That would.
Well, if they want us to send out an e-blast to the community, we will send it out. It's just like, yes.
So they're subsidized.
What if
That's their
it's
subset.
like something that they're not aware too? Like, I think there was some miscommunication on tonight's meeting. I think some people said that they didn't know that was happening, or I don't understand kind of like the disconnect in communication that they're struggling with. And I don't know if they're able to like communicate more with their homeowners, if that would help. Rather than having to like go through rows all the time. I
And
don't
we have service areas that communicate with each other outside of Rose. Savannah is very active in communicating with each other outside of Rose. But if it's a committee member wanting to send an e-blast out to their entire community about something, that should go through management, just the same way as a board member wouldn't log into Clavio and send an e-blast out to all homeowners.
I guess if there is something where maybe there could be a disclosure within these groups that they're open, like on Syria, where you can share your information, things like that people can opt in.
It is, so there is an option in Syrinet to make your contact information available to other residents, and then it's visible in the direct.
But is there all a celebration or just a spring?
I'll have
We
to
can't
double,
make the distinction.
I'll have to double check because the service areas are separated out into subcategories in Syrinet. So we have a CROA overall, and then we have subsets in Syrinet, 14 other subsets in Syrinet with each service area where we can just email them directly. So
Summer park and email this for spring.
Can I call it time because I think I know where you're going. We've got 26 minutes. Yeah. We gotta get through this, we have some audience questions. You want to get up and, you want to make sure we get through this and then there's other stuff too.
Yeah, there's still other time.
Yeah.
Well, Rockford Coconut, 931 Greenland Street. Just association. And kind of said it's a very difficult process because we don't have access to homes. You know, and we find it very, very difficult. There's got to be a better way to go around that. This first point is actually, again, very difficult because we don't have access to the homes directly. It means we always have to go through a third party. A lot of the homeowners don't live there. They're in Wyoming or wherever they are. So we don't.
Might I ask, what kind of direct contact are you thinking would be helpful?
Well, to solicit what people want to see done in the area.
Okay, but no. What I'm asking is what kind of contact information are you saying as a service area?
Get the junk emails. I'm concerned if somebody has.
Some people are,
So just,
and they get on Charlie, maybe somebody else's.
just to clarify, these are actions that management needs to take. These aren't actions that we're saying the service area needs to set up these meetings.
Meetings, this is not the committee pushing these out, this is Grand Manners owning the.
We're treating each committee like a board. So just like we set up.
Is that legally required? We have 71? Do I have to report? Please?
No, but we as a board decide what the service area committee's role and responsibilities and abilities are. That's up to us.
Right.
As the master. Pardon?
I have no abilities to spend money.
No.
So I don't understand why I have to have the same restrictions that you guys do, spending money.
Okay, what we're saying is, we're trying to figure out a way to make it easier for your members, your owners, to find the information on the meetings, to go to CROA, to go to the website and look at the meetings and listen to the meetings.
Okay. That would be great. But so far, I don't even know who's in my community. We had people knocking on the doors, driving to where the homeowner lives, out to try and get solicited. Seriously, it was a very, very difficult process. I understand why so many committees don't inform because, lack of information, who should be.
And I think through this, we're going to see a lot more layers unravel because we don't know what's going on. That's the reality. I hate to say, that's why we're having this conversation. A lot of things that we just don't have documented, we don't have controls around, and it's a work in progress.
Right.
This is not set in stone.
We were happy, we would form a committee. I mean, to me, having to form a committee to have our neighborhood nice is a statement that we're not happy.
Yeah, let's speak.
Real quick.
Yeah, take me.
Sorry.
Happy New Year, everybody. So, couple things here. One is, communication. I get what everybody's saying here. The only reason I knew about this was because of Charleston. I think the only reason these guys knew about it was because I called one of them to come to the meeting. So communications between Grand Manners and the service area is non-existent. Otherwise, we would have known it all been here tonight. That's just hands down what it is. So, I think that's one of the things. We also need communication between service areas, Grand Manners, and all the other alphabet soups, because for my area, we just spent 40 grand on landscaping. And 2 weeks ago, CCDD came in and decided to redo a bunch of the sidewalks, which I'm glad they did. But now I've got to redo all that landscaping that they just trampled and try to pull back some of that money from CDD that just killed 10 grand, So that's not good. The meeting section here that you guys are talking about in the 720 Association, I can tell you for a fact that none of us want that. We want a quarterly meeting like that held, but for day-to-day things like, hey, this guy needs flowers replaced or whatever it happens. My committee's all on a text chain. We all text each other and then one of us emails Rose. I don't think we need a quorum of people, 50 people in a room or a call to set up a meeting. It's going to take 2 weeks to set up and then we got to go to it when we could have it done in 3 hours. So I would rather quarterly meetings like that.
Would not be of the community. The quorum is of your committee.
Correct, but you still tell me I got to set up a meeting in 48 hours.
You're not setting it up. They are.
Again, but yeah, but when I pick something in minutes, why would I want to do this? Why would I want a meeting for saying, hey, the guy's side rail on 520 is broken. We need somebody to fix that. And I don't even need for that.
The homeowners in your,
But why would you put this in my subdivision development for that request?
I didn't know we could do that, but that's fine.
Service areas are assigned in GOGA through the My Celebration app.
They are. Well, that's good to know. So we didn't know that either. That's very serious.
But I guess that's the other thing too, I think it should be for grand riders and overstaying is that they should be getting 10 different texts from all these different committees. You should have your designated monthly spots and then you can submit various requests throughout the month. So it's not something that, are we pulling away to answer all these requests coming in?
Well, now here's, that was interesting too, because we have a person, the service areas pay for 2 people outside of CROA, out of our own budgets. That's all they're supposed to do is service area. Now, whether they do other grand matter stuff, I don't know, but that's something I did want to talk about too, because there is an administrative fee that CROA votes on every year to increase the salaries of these people. And we have no say on that. And then it just increases our fees every year. So
Let me interrupt. I think we've gotten ahead of ourselves,
okay,
like way ahead of ourselves. This was put on the agenda tonight to discuss as a board, to present to the service area committees at a service area town hall,
we love that.
where there's going to be give and take before this stuff voted on. So all we're doing is doing the preliminary work prior to presenting it to the service areas for their input, prior to us voting. We're not voting on this,
That's perfect.
okay?
I tell you what, send you guys a follow-up email with all the information so that we'll have it.
Yeah, but really, this is just to sort of say, here's a starting point, then it's gonna get discussed with the service areas, then it's gonna come back for changes and a vote later.
feel free to send it to the entire board so they see how much service.
I guess to wrap it up then, clearly, there's either no process or a process for you, that this is trying to solve the problem. So
Right.
It's a work in progress.
Correct, it's a work in
The other
progress.
thing is There's 14 service areas and 2 employees. Lauren, is that sufficient? Is there a people problem?
I think that's a longer discussion. We actually were discussing that with Charles earlier today. And I think the next 2-3 months is gonna be telling, and we can have further discussions over the next couple of months of where we're going now.
Well, we're gonna have a minimum of 2 more, potentially 2 more service areas.
They're all combining into one large island of service area. That's the way the documents are written.
So that's,
Still an expansion.
Eventually, you will get there where it will be necessary to have another body in the service area.
You also have to scale.
I would,
Zero scale across the.
Yeah.
So it's a whole.
I do want to backtrack real quick on a statement this man that's sending to the board. Any issues like that still should go to the liaison. As a liaison, escalate those to the board to help with the board's email received.
Now, let me propose this for a second, because now that I understand the process better. Huh? No, I don't want to pause it. We all have this.
Yep.
This is in our hands. This is also up on the website. It's all available for public viewing and for our consideration. I would suggest, because this is going to be an hour-long process to go through all of these points, I would suggest that each of us, as an individual board member, take this home, look through it and go, that's a stupid idea. And if it is a stupid idea, then we come back, have a little quick discussion in 2 weeks. And then we just, again, this is a draft document to run by the service area committees to see what they think should be in and should not be in. And then we can discuss some things that may to be in.
so.
There may be things that have to be in here, despite people not wanting them.
Yeah, I think the piece, I think the town hall piece is critical, that we have a forum that's dedicated and time dedicated for that. I do think that it needs to be noticed to not only the service area committees, but just the service area.
So that, yeah, it's gonna.
I meant the service areas, but for the service area committees.
14 e-blasts to all the service areas in CRNet right now to be approved to go out to announce the date of the town hall and what it's gonna be about.
Are they gonna discuss this? Is this on their agenda?
I think that's what we need. We're gonna have to talk about that because the next meeting, we hopefully will all consolidate our feedback.
Yep.
We also need to figure out how do we get it to the committees.
No, wait, come back. Come back. The committees because they're gonna give us the input to the town hall.
Okay,
Okay, we can send them the draft.
so we're not rolling it, okay, because I think that's what we were hoping to roll this at the town hall, but if this is more.
I don't think we can.
No, it's a feedback at the town.
We'll determine them.
Yeah. All right, so shall we do that? Thank you all so much.
Is it possible to email blast this to all the service areas so they have awareness and that the expectation?
I think it should be after we discuss it,
After we refine it.
after we refine it.
May I request that, some type of formal orientation or training be implemented for the service area committee, because it seems everybody's is different.
You want to say that for the town hall?
Okay, sure.
All right, yeah, let's move on. Legal services RFP, I was not aware that the previous board, just 1 year ago, this board did an RFP with 4 participants and approved Larson Slayton. I would suggest that we not go forward with an RFP for legal services. We got enough on our plate.
I would still like to go forward with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Two, based off of, well, originally I thought it was a 1-year contract, but since it is a 2-year contract, I still feel that it's appropriate. And I feel like getting more into, Lauren provided us some more information. I didn't know that one of these attorneys that responded to the RFP were already in Celebration. And rereading their qualifications, I feel they would add a lot of value, mainly because being board certified experts in condominium and plan development law, which is something that would be added to our legal services, because I don't believe we have that right now. And I think that's needed, and at minimum, based on what's happened, if we don't do the legal services RFP, since they are already on site, I think we need a second opinion for ballot counting procedures through them.
that I wouldn't disagree with. I wouldn't disagree with that. I don't think, and we can vote on this at the meeting because it's not an action item, but if we need to, I don't think we should do an RFP until we get to the end of this contract.
Let's go back. So that was the last one. I was the one who initiated the legal services RFP, because to my knowledge, we have never put out a RFP whatsoever. And potentially since.
It's not true. They had.
Not
that they had.
How long ago?
Oh, wasn't it was 8 years ago.
All right, so that's quite a bit of time. So we did it to ensure we were getting competitive pricing.
They were fired.
So we went through a full, really robust process. We did finalist meetings with 3 of the firms, including Areas Plus. We sat down, we talked to them, we asked about their capability. We had one interviews. At the end of the day, it was Slayton that we went forward with. They refined their pricing. We got a discounted rate per hour through that RFP. We got a discounted rate, I believe, on the annual. It went from what, 4,900 to 3,900-ish. We accomplished everything we set out to do through that RFP. You do not RFP in back-to-back years unless there is a serious service issue. This is the retaliatory RFP.
I think this is, I think we have a serious service issue.
What's the service issue?
Well, we haven't been included on any communications, and we were supposed to be included on everything. That's been a directive for 2 years, and that hasn't happened.
I haven't seen follow-up on the recalled slide at Lakeside or the AC servicing for 851 that I forget the name of the company, but there was supposed to be, we were supposed to have some sort of action with both those companies. And I haven't seen any updates there. I haven't.
We have a lien on a part of our property that legal has been dealing with. We haven't heard an update on that in more than 6 months.
The lien expired. It expired. They didn't file a suit. liens, construction liens automatically expire at the end of the year
Here's a grand manager.
unless a suit is filed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that just error in opinion, where like quoting of a statute that doesn't exist. And I mean, to me, like, it's just like, I understand the discounted rate, but at some point, if I'm gonna have to ask for like a second opinion on the ballot counting procedures, I mean, I think it would be.
I honestly don't think we have to ask for a second opinion. I think you may want to ask for a second opinion. And Jared wants to ask for a second opinion, but the reality is the ballot counting was not, it ended, everything ended up.
Here is just straightforward. If we do the RFP and you go with Larson Slate again, then you can ask for another RFP again and again and again until you get what you want.
No, let's simplify this.
Your contract.
Yeah, the 2-year contract.
From a board perspective, unless there's egregious action, I think we honor our contract and continue to work on. I think there's a communication issue, which Lauren, I don't know if you can assist with Larson to help that for the board, so that gets to a level we're at. I am dissatisfied with the whole recount thing of, there was case law out there for a number of years, and that was never reviewed by Larson Slate. That should have been something that they did annual reviews, or they're aware of what's going on in the business, that they should be making those recommendations to Lauren or us as a board. So that is definitely an area that I hope to see improvement from them going forward. But to the extent of an RFP, I don't see that.
Eric.
So I think the only thing for me is that if we have a problem with Larson Slate, let's bring them to a meeting.
Yeah, right. I think what we have here is we can put it to a vote in 2 weeks as an action item, whether we go to RFP or not. But what I see is 4-2.
Also, we have 851 coming up, which is going to need a lot of legal attention.
Yeah.
So do we really want to change firms?
I don't.
Well, like one firm is already in celebration.
And we can't really bar.
But they're not handling
state elections.
I mean, they live here.
They have experience, is what I'm saying with celebration, and looking at overall legal experience, they have it. I see it lacking in the qualifications, the attorney qualifications with who we have as a firm now versus another firm. And my goal is just to say, okay, I see some errors that I wasn't comfortable with this past year. There's another firm in celebration that is extremely qualified. To me, it makes sense to look into it and see where they're at right now and if they'd be willing to.
Let's do this. You guys have absolutely the right to put it on as an action item on the agenda.
Okay.
If you want to add it as an action item, let's add it as an action item.
You would take a vote now.
We can't. We're doing a structure. We have to put it on. No, but 2 board members can put an agenda item on.
So
And in our last meeting, we actually asked Lauren to send out the RFP.
Yeah,
2 minutes of the meeting.
in the last 2 minutes, and we did.
So I thought we were on the same
We
page.
did not, and I've read through this. I was not aware of. Yeah, I was not aware we'd already done an RFP just a year ago. So no, I'm not ready to go to another one right now.
We voted.
Not voting.
It was a discussion.
No,
It's a discussion.
we voted on that RFP that was done a year ago.
I know, but we didn't vote on that. Our board didn't. It was in January.
I
That
think
was a legacy issue that we pretty much were handed it the first month.
Yeah.
That's it, but we voted.
No, the contract was approved by the prior board.
Yeah.
That's the process with them.
All right, what's this reserve expenditures, playgrounds and town hall? What's that item?
You can kick that.
I would suggest kicking it to the next meeting because a lot of these items involve expenditures relating to our playgrounds and to town hall out of our reserve fund that I would like to have the conversations with our finance committee before we have this discussion. If we push this as a discussion item to the board meeting, we do have a finance committee prior to that, but we can't have those conversations.
Jacob, that would be very helpful.
I think that like the main thing that I was trying to understand with this is like when we have like a piece of equipment that has been removed, like since June. I think we need to address it like within the first couple of months and not have residents be bringing it to our attention,
So,
6 months down the line.
so we did.
The seesaws?
Yeah. I know why the seesaws are out. The seesaws are gone because we are waiting, we're not going to install the seesaw to then uninstall it. We have to fix the playground to replace the turf 2 months after.
Well, then we need to have that discussion about the turf.
We will, and that,
Good item is the turf expenditure.
but we have such close dates with replacing the playground itself as well, that I want to just make sure, and that's why we want to bring it to that larger.
And that discussion was held at previous board meetings.
But it's like we haven't been addressing it. I mean,
The discussion to not replace it was held at a board meeting.
not to replace, yeah, but just forever?
No.
No, until the other work is done.
Okay, then when is the other work going to be done? When is the turf going to be fixed?
We could have find larger solutions.
So as,
Well,
I
in the
mean,
meantime, though, nothing happens.
so what we have as what we have as an option, just a short notice to answer your question, but I would like to add this as a more in-depth conversation based on time. The teeter-totters were removed from 2 parks because they were damaged. They were not reinstalled at North Village due to the discussion of redoing the turf. The turf was paused as let's work on one playground project at a time, as we were in the situation of Spring Park, Long Meadow, and now this one. We have a quote, and we are ready to start these discussions on North Village, small children's playground. There is a.
What is the quote on? The turf?
On
or
turf.
the-
On turf. And we have quotes ready, and we have been actively receiving information on getting the pricing for the teeter totters. That has all been happening inside our operation. That one is a larger project in the sense of, do we get the teeter totter to do the turf, but then in 2 years, the playground is up for
In 26, so.
next year, is up to be done or to be removed. We don't want to put a new turf. So that is a discussion for the board, but we do have reserve budgeting restraints that we are looking at, that I'm seeing in projections that aren't lining up. I would really like to have finance discuss this and before it's discussed at a board level, if I've seen these discrepancies of not going to finance before that. That's the reason on that. The East Village, thank you, that one is just, it can be installed. That was one, like I said, in June, came on in August, was aware of the issue. Also, there's a sunshade project or a shade structure project that at that point we thought was going to be installed, and it's still an active project to be installed. We wanted to make sure that with that insulation, we have an opportune time for if those pylons going in the ground are going to affect the safety area of that, or if the teeter totter needs moved, we have an opportune moment to do that, to not have an issue with the shade structure, because we do not want an issue. We want that shade structure in, and the teeter totter has availability to be moved. We did not expect that project to be where it is.
So just a quick rundown, things that stood out. The 1.657 for athletic fields for $200,000. That's truly just for turf. That's nothing to do with drainage. On that reserve expense.
Now, this is what the finance stuff.
I know, so there's a couple things I just want to get out in the open here. It's time something, but that's only 200 earmarked, and then there's a
Irrigation is
247 for athletic fields, and then Eastville, Northwest Strip Park is not broken out. So we already know drainage on the CCFC fields is over $1 million, and this is only earmarked for $250,000, so pretty underfunded. In looking at that town hall update, I know Dave Schwarman, we received that letter last month. I gave him a call yesterday just to understand what the stance was, where the school was. My understanding from conversation with him is that the definitions are, they will not do a joint use agreement. There's too much risk associated with it. They will not sell it to CROA, we're a private entity. They are willing to sell it to CCDD, One caveat that they said is that if they were to do a sale to CCD for the other lot, that they are not really in favor of selling the access road. They want 2 access roads to that school at all times, but they would be open to moving. So in looking at it, right, if we were to move that access road, then that would encompass a community vote on potentially selling or maybe that town hall, but then also looking at what a new building would look like if we were to shift the access road over and expand the town hall on that neighboring unit.
Who was it you talked to at the school?
The guy who sent the letter to us.
Okay.
Now, again, it all has to go to a board, and there's a whole procedure piece and everything, so I just want to put it out there that as we look forward, right, if we're already underfunded on the athletic fields, then I think this brings in a larger conversation of should we be owning all this stuff, and is there something that we need to be working with CCD on what the future of celebration truly look like, not just pigeonholing ourselves into, let's just repair town hall and not take anything into account.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
with that, I'm recommending that the ballots go out soon, and this is for informational purposes only
the ballots.
for the election. So I want to put a couple of things on there that for information purpose only, is the community willing to sell, say, the CCFC fields, Lot D, Lot B, the dog park, town hall, et cetera? Because if the community doesn't want to sell any land and work on something bigger, then we rubber stamp the repair and we're done. But if the community wants something bigger and is open to a master plan of what celebration is as a whole, then that's going to be a longer conversation.
Why are we discussing?
Where did this come from?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand where this is coming from.
The reserve spending for next year.
It's,
So we're spiraling.
Can we circle that back to the finance committee on that?
That's
Just take time.
a lot,
yeah, I would like to hear that from the committee.
that's a lot in the last.
Maybe master. Yeah.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
it's trying to save money, getting community input as far as where they stand, because if everyone says, no, we're not selling anymore, okay.
I'm trying to see what this costs is reserve expenditures.
I think it's a weak connection.
I think the problem,
I don't want to spend 200,000 on fields that aren't going to fix the issue. And then I don't want to spend 1.2 million to fix it when I'm reserved short. I don't have reserves for $1 million.
I hear
So
what you're
speaking of-
saying, Andrew, but I think the problem is that anything that we send out with the voting stuff, we don't have any of the documentation that the community would need to make a vote on. So sending it out with the election stuff would be equivalent to us just sending out a poll and getting a random survey, because without the backup of what we would actually do, it has no value in the voting documents.
We can what?
Land use.
Yeah, yeah, okay, anyway.
I do want to just circle back to the original discussion of this item, Katie's point on playgrounds. Katie, I sense some discontent in our conversation. I want to say, I want to work with you. I think that teamwork between our board and us is crucial. And I want to make sure that we come to resolutions that satisfy the board. We can take that offline. I want to continue these conversations. I want to give you accolades for your ambassadorship of our playgrounds, because they are important and we do want to keep moving things along with that. I want to do that, and I do agree that we need to make sure we don't drag on playgrounds.
Yeah.
Can we put the figures on, like in the next, like I'm saying, like let them just run with the playgrounds, honestly.
Official liaison.
Given that we have gone through our discussion items and I'm gonna table that last one. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion, second.
All right, we're
Third.
adjourned. Thank you. There.
Better.